July 18, 1944. Lieutenant General Omar Bradley stood inside his Normandy command post, staring down at casualty reports from the American front. 6 weeks had passed since D-Day. 6 weeks of relentless combat in the Norman Bocage. 6 weeks of Americans dying in sunken lanes, trapped between ancient stone walls and towering earthen banks, choked with vegetation so dense a man couldn't see 10 yards ahead. Bradley's First Army had taken more than 40,000 casualties, killed, wounded, missing. His men were pinned inside terrain that turned every field into a fortress and every hedgerow into a killing ground. The Germans fought hard, but they were not the true cause of the disaster. The real problem lay 6 miles to the east, the city of Caen. British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery had sworn Caen would fall on D-Day. He had promised Eisenhower that British forces would seize the city within hours of landing, break inland, and give the Allied armies room to maneuver. 6 weeks later, Caen remained firmly in German hands. Montgomery's entire army was stalled outside a city he had vowed to take on June 6th. And because Montgomery was stalled, the Germans were free to focus their armored reserves elsewhere. Every panzer division not tied down by the British was killing Americans in the hedgerows. Bradley looked back at the casualty lists. These were not statistics. These were farm boys from Iowa, factory workers from Detroit, teenagers who trusted their commanders. They were dying because Montgomery had failed, and now Montgomery was claiming that failure had been the plan all along. This is the story of how a broken promise at Caen nearly shattered the Normandy invasion. How American soldiers paid in blood for British failure, and how George S. Patton had to rescue D-Day from a disaster Montgomery refused to acknowledge. Operation Overlord had been planned for 18 months, the largest amphibious assault in human history. British and Canadian forces would land on Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches. Their primary objective, Caen. Caen was the key road junction connecting Normandy to Paris. Beyond it lay open terrain, ideal for armored warfare. If Caen fell quickly, Allied forces could push inland and prevent German panzer divisions from containing the invasion. Montgomery promised Eisenhower he would take Caen on D-Day, not D+1, not within a week, June 6th itself. American forces would land at Utah and Omaha, seize the Cotentin Peninsula, and capture Cherbourg, vital for logistics, but secondary to Montgomery's breakout. Speed was everything. German panzer divisions were already in France. If the Allies stalled, they would be counterattacked. Montgomery insisted he understood the stakes. He would not fail. June 6, 1944. British and Canadian troops stormed the eastern beaches. The landings succeeded. Casualties were lighter than expected. By mid-morning, thousands of troops were advancing inland toward Caen. The British 3rd Infantry Division pushed south from Sword Beach. Caen was only 6 miles away. German defenses were thin. The route was vulnerable. Then Montgomery hesitated. British forces paused to consolidate their beachhead. They waited for artillery. They organized supply lines. They prioritized caution over momentum. By afternoon, German reinforcements arrived. The 21st Panzer Division counterattacked between British and Canadian sectors. The attack didn't drive the Allies back to the sea, but it stopped the advance toward Caen. By nightfall, British troops were still 3 miles short of the city. Montgomery's promise was already broken. He assured Eisenhower the delay was temporary. Caen would fall within days. It didn't. June 7th failed. June 8th failed. June 9th failed. By June 10th, 4 days after D-Day, the truth was unavoidable. Montgomery's plan had collapsed. Caen would not fall quickly. German commanders recognized the opportunity. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel had limited panzer reserves. He had to decide where to commit them, against the British near Caen or the Americans in the west. The British threat was obvious. If Montgomery broke through at Caen, Allied armor could race toward Paris. The Americans, meanwhile, were trapped in the Bocage, terrible terrain for tanks. Rommel chose Caen. One panzer division after another was rushed east: 21st Panzer, 12th SS, Panzer Lehr, 1st SS. By mid-June, 7 German panzer divisions, more than 500 tanks, were concentrated around Caen. Those divisions could have smashed the Americans while they were still organizing. Instead, they were locked in battle with Montgomery. This would later become Montgomery's excuse. He claimed he had deliberately drawn German armor toward Caen to shield the Americans. That was not true. In June 1944, Montgomery was not executing deception. He was attacking Caen and failing. While British armor stalled east, American soldiers endured a different nightmare: the Bocage. A maze of small fields separated by 4-foot-high earthen banks topped with centuries-old hedges and trees. The roots were thick enough to stop tanks. When Shermans tried to climb over, their underbellies were exposed, perfect targets. German machine guns covered every lane. Mortars fired from unseen positions. Mines waited beneath the soil. Infantry advanced across open ground toward hedges they couldn't see through and were cut down before reaching them. If Americans breached one hedgerow, another waited 100 yards ahead. Casualties were catastrophic. Companies lost half their men in days. Regiments were shattered for gains measured in yards. The First Army was being destroyed piece by piece. Bradley understood the truth. His soldiers were paying the price for Montgomery's failure at Caen. British offensives followed: Epsom, then Goodwood. Each was massive, each promised breakthrough, each failed. Operation Goodwood, launched July 18th, began with over 2,000 bombers dropping 7,000 tons of bombs. 3 armored divisions advanced. Over 700 tanks rolled forward. For hours, it looked like success. Then, German 88s emerged. Panzer counterattacks followed. British armor was slaughtered. By July 20th, Goodwood was over. 400 British tanks destroyed. 5,000 casualties. No breakthrough. Montgomery called it a success. Eisenhower knew better. With British credibility exhausted, the burden fell entirely on the Americans. Bradley prepared Operation Cobra, a concentrated assault near Saint-Lô, massive bombing, rapid exploitation, and a new innovation: Rhino tanks, designed to cut through hedgerows instead of climbing them. And waiting behind the lines was the man who would exploit success without hesitation: George S. Patton. July 25, 1944. Cobra began. Bombers shattered German defenses. Infantry surged forward. The line collapsed. Within days, American forces broke into open country. On August 1st, Patton's Third Army activated and unleashed chaos. He ignored outdated orders. He drove east. He moved faster than any modern army had ever moved. German units were outflanked, surrounded, destroyed. In 2 weeks, Patton advanced farther than Montgomery had advanced in 2 months. After the war, German generals told the truth. They had concentrated panzers at Caen because the British were attacking there, not because of deception. They believed Montgomery was attempting a real breakthrough. They were never fooled. Montgomery's post-war narrative collapsed under testimony. The facts were undeniable. American forces suffered over 62,000 casualties in Normandy. Thousands died trapped in terrain they should never have been fighting in, because Caen never fell. Patton broke out in weeks. Montgomery failed for 6. The Normandy campaign succeeded despite Montgomery, not because of him. This is the truth history tried to soften. Montgomery failed at Normandy. Patton saved D-Day. And American soldiers paid the price.